So by this stage, we've kind of outgrown the Illinois facility. It was called the Wahl Equestrian Center. And Wahl Clippers were my first sponsor that I ever got back in those days. I think I charged them $5,000 a year. Wahl Clipper make a phenomenal clipper product, great company, were with me for many, many years. I don't have a bad thing to say about them, a great company. But they sponsored that arena and they called it the Wahl Equestrian Center. So I was there in Illinois for 2 years and I basically just outgrew the facility. When I went there, they wanted me to go there to give that facility kind of national recognition because I was getting on RFD TV. I was in the magazines, Horse Illustrated, Horse and Rider. I was getting a lot of national attention. So they wanted me there to try to book that facility and so that people would want to rent it for clinics or rent it for horse shows, events, etc. Well, I did my job probably a little too well because after 2 years, that facility was almost booked every single weekend. And when I said weekend, Wednesday through Saturday. So it was very difficult for me to train horses when I've got horse shows going on there because I couldn't use the indoor arena. So that means I could only ride in the outdoor. If the weather was bad, it was raining, I was very limited. And not only that, in those years, I was filming like a crazy person. There was only 2 things I was doing. I was either on the road doing clinics and tours, or I was filming the next set of DVDs or tapes or whatever we were doing at the time, or TV shows. So I was either filming or on the road teaching, filming or on the road teaching. Well, when I was filming, I needed a place that was quiet. I wasn't going to be distracted. People weren't watching. And, I could do the filming correctly. Well, the Wahl Equestrian Center got so damn busy that it basically got it to where I couldn't film there anymore. So it became obvious I need a different facility. By that stage, we were making a little bit more money, well, a lot more money, I suppose. And I decided I was married to my first wife at the time, and this is where I made a real fucking stupid mistake. I decided to build my own facility, but where I made a huge mistake is my wife and I made it very clear. We were just young kids when we got married. We should never have got married. She was 18, I was 20. We didn't know the difference in love and lust. We were just stupid kids, okay? We never should have got married at all, okay? And one of the things that pissed me off the most is I always had an attitude, I left high school at 15, so I got to grow up very quickly. I left high school, I became a man very quickly, I lived in an adult world very quickly. So I understood you grow up with your parents and then you move away from your parents and you start your own life. That doesn't mean you don't love your parents or don't want to keep in contact, but you kind of move on. My wife never kind of got that concept. She was always a mama's girl. Oh, I miss my mother, I miss my mother, I miss my mother. And she bitched about it constantly through the marriage, constantly. So by this stage, we were probably married 3-4 years, probably 4 years. And every day I hear this bitching, I miss my mother, I miss my mother, I miss my mother. Well, as a man, when you hear a woman bitching, all you want to fucking do is make it stop. That's all you want to do. Just make the bitching fucking stop. When a man's head hits the pillow at nighttime, you know what he wants, ladies? Peace. That's all he wants. Just peace and be left alone. So me and my logical man mind, I probably would have been 25, 26 at the time, I'm thinking, okay, great. I'll just solve this fucking problem of her mother and make sure she doesn't miss her mother anymore, and our marriage is fixed. Stupid to laugh at now. There was a lot of problems, but in my stupidity back then, I'm thinking, great, you miss your mother, we got to build another facility, let's just move where your mother is. So I bought 120 acres or something from her parents, farmland, okay? And I bought that land from them. Okay, and I'm thinking, great, I'll build a facility. It's right beside their mother's fucking home, which later on became a disaster. She'll see her mother every day. That'll shut her the fuck up. She'll quit bitching at me. I can do my horses, build my career. Everybody's happy. In theory, it sounded like pretty good, but in reality, it was a disaster. So I bought 120 acres beside the parents and built a new facility there, okay? That was the first major loan that I ever loaned. I think I borrowed $1.3 million, and I'm like shaking like a motherfucker. Like I'm scared to death to sign that note for that kind of money because I hadn't ever been in debt for that kind of money before. Now, later on in life, I signed a lot of notes that were a lot bigger than that and kind of makes me chuckle that 1.3 would be like, having a sandwich, okay? We decided to build a facility because we've outgrown the Wahl Equestrian Center. I need way more office space. I need way more warehouse inventory. I've got more products. We just outgrew it. That's as simple as it got. When I was at Wahl Equestrian Center, I think we had, at the largest, we had like 3 employees. I was busting at the seams and I needed like 8 employees. So we really outgrew it. So we built a facility in a field, a farm field, right beside a parent's house. And we built an apartment in the barn. It was a big, it was a big covered indoor arena, 125 by 250, and it had, 30, 40 stalls down one side, and down the other side was all warehouse, and then the front was all offices. So I built that facility, took a year and a half to kind of get that built, and we moved into that. Now, this is the part that pissed me off, is her bitching about her mother. That technically stopped. She wouldn't bitch and say, I miss my mother, but she made other things to bitch about. So I replaced one bitching topic with 2 or 3 other bitching topics. So that's what just wanted to blow my fucking brains out. Anyway, so at that point, I'm just knuckling down. So we're on RFT TV. RFT TV's killing it. It's pretty much running my entire business model at this point, okay? We're getting sponsors. We're getting TV sponsors. I'm in magazines. That's when the business is really taking off at this particular point, okay? You've got to remember, I don't think there's going to be a time in the horsemanship industry where we ever have a big influx of cash and people that are new to this business like there was in that time frame, okay? You couldn't help but make money. Even if you fucked it up, you couldn't help but make money. Back in those days, we were probably still selling VHS tapes and making that transition into DVDs. So I think I was at that particular place probably 4 or 5 years. I was in Ohio. I personally hated Ohio. I hated everything about it. First, I hate the cold. So I hated being cold. Now, even though I was in the arena and I had it heated and I had a lot of insulation, it's still just miserable, cold, snow, depression. Remember, when I was raised in Cairns, Queensland, Australia on the Great Barrier Reef. So think Miami, Florida weather, that's what I was basically raised with, and that's what I like. I moved to Ohio thinking stupidly that it would fix my marriage. If I could shut her up and quit her bitching, she'd leave me alone, let me do my career, everybody's happy. And so it was basically, about business at that point. I started the Signature Horse program, right? And somewhere in those times, I started the Signature Horse program. We would have people come to the ranch for 10-day clinics. We was developing the method. Back in those days, I think we called it Riding with Confidence Series 1, 2, and 3. And the groundwork was called Groundwork and Gaining Respect on the Ground, Series 1, 2, and 3. And eventually all of that got scrapped and it turned into Fundamentals, Intermediate, and Advanced. Okay, that eventually turned into that. But basically it was balls to the walls. And when I was in that period of my life, that was right about when I hired my marketing company, Stewart & Associates. And that's when everything really took off for me, because up to that point, I was doing all my own marketing, when I say my own graphic design artist, we'd hired a graphic design artist, but we were pretty sloppy with our marketing and pretty sloppy with just our branding in general, which, of course, I wasn't trained to be in marketing. I wasn't a branding expert. So I hired Stewart & Associates. And how did I know I hired them? Couple things to hire them. Couple things. One, I think at that stage we were probably grossing $10 million a year in sales at that point, and I noticed that my sales had slowed down a little bit. The last couple of years we'd grown, but not big leaps and bounds. So I was like, okay, the train's slowing down. Why is it slowing down? And the next thing I just noticed that other companies' marketing was just cleaner than mine, better than mine, etc. By this stage, I had hired another lady. She came in and she was doing the marketing and kind of running the company and doing all the marketing because I was on the road so much and I was so busy I couldn't be in 2 places at once. And this woman's marketing, for the time it was fine, but I could just tell that it wasn't going to take me where I wanted to go. I could see other companies and other industries that had really cool commercials, really cool branding. I just knew something wasn't right. And I knew what we were doing had run its course. I'd outgrown what we were currently doing.